Playbook, Playbook, it's a private practice playbook, Playbook.
All right, welcome to the Private Practice Playbook podcast. I'm Emily, and I've had the privilege of working alongside Jay Geier for the last 12 years. And in that time, I've been inside hundreds of practices. I've watched hundreds of doctors transform their businesses through our coaching program. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: success is not random, it's intentional. Doctors who want to grow their business can't do it without the right team in place. And let's be honest, hiring great talent isn't what it used to be. The marketplace has changed, expectations have shifted, and attracting the right people takes more intention than ever before. So today we're asking the tough question: are you attracting the right people, or are you repelling them without even knowing it? Whether you're struggling to hire or just want a stronger, more committed team, this episode is for you. So let's get into it. Here's Jay.
You know, it's nothing like taking the worst possible problem and trying to figure out how to dissect it and make it just incredibly simple. So that's what we're going to do, all right? Complex, simple. Complex, simple. So this is, we got to start out by attempting to get us all in the same place, which we're clearly not. So some of you have been affected a little more. Some of you have been affected a little less. Some of you are absolute rock stars and have been killing it over the last couple of years because your engagement has been very high. So what I want to do is to kind of bring us together, right? And it's funny, you know, when you think about life, right? Life is about how you deal with what's in front of you, okay? And one of the things I think that some people tend to think sometimes is whatever the next wave is. How many of you ever seen your kids or you remember out playing in the waves? Has anyone seen that with someone at the beach recently, a kid? And they will get pounded by a wave and go back over the next one and then go to the next one and go to the next one. And it's, you know, it's interesting that when you think about a life well lived, which my hope is, how many of you would like to end with a life well lived, right? Just you did some cool stuff, right? And your life meant something maybe, right? And so these are all normally important things. And what sidetracks every single person, you know, and it's horrible, is some incident. You know that there are actually people who don't talk to their own children. You know there are mothers and sons and mothers and daughters who don't talk. Do you think about that? You know, there's estrangement in all kinds of relationships, right? There's family members that don't talk to each other. And, you know, if you think about it, and I want to make sure we set the tone with this, most of you are what I would consider to clearly be an exceptional group of people. Anyone who's smart enough to learn and to grow, you are someone who is working on not just handling what comes at you, but handling it well, you know, and coming out the other side of it better off. So we're going to dissect this a little bit. So I'm going to start with this. Number one, anyone who has been with me any amount of time, this is what we're trying to do, okay? So you're going to see some assumptiveness from me that you have a practice that's in a category of one. If you're new and you've never heard this concept, then you may be a little shocked by it and you have catch-up work to do. So you might want to ask someone around you, you know, what exactly does that mean? What does he mean by a category of one practice? So some of you have spent 10, 15 years building a practice that we call a category of one practice. How many of you were at the event I did called this exact event in Orlando? So to give you an idea, that was 8, 9 years ago, maybe something like that. I don't remember exactly. But we spent 2 days dissecting this, and you've been working on this very intentional thing, which is to make a practice better than the other practices around you. Think about that. And it's very important because as we go through, you're going to see all of these things are going to build on each other. And to this very day, I think the number one thing you can do, which is actually incredibly counterintuitive, is not be like everyone else. So make a note, right? This concept is to not be like everyone else. It is not to walk into the first crappy office you see and copy all the crappy things they do. Because what you would probably do is you'd have some lovely white printed signs, right, that say what the patient can't do in the waiting room. And you'd have a lovely piece of glass that you slid open occasionally to talk to the animals on the other side of the glass, right? I mean, there are things you would do. Who's been to one of those amazing offices recently? Right, when you go to the doctor, right, you got to take pictures of that stuff. It's so damn funny, right? I mean, I have some pictures the last time I went somewhere and I thought, are they trying to create material for me? We don't do this. We don't do this. And then never open that glass. And I sat in that waiting room for 20 minutes. Like, I'm not an animal. So important you understand this, because as we go through this, this continues to be important. It is to make yourself different. And remember, we have the advantage of what? Most people are horrible at this. This is the good news. Okay? So we're going to understand that assumption. The next thing that we've been working on for now several years, which pays huge dividends, and we're going to touch on it again to get you charged up about it, but we've been working on culture. And you've been working on systematically investing in developing a team spirit, right? Something different. And listen, I will remind you that this thing never stops. Remember, what did we learn about culture? It's a flywheel. That means that if you stop investing in it, the flywheel stops and it's much harder to get it going. And so we've definitely saw some people, there were things that slowed their flywheel down. So we're going to touch on this concept because this is going to be a very important point of leverage to solve the problems we're going to talk about. One of those, we talked about multiplication. And so I want you to remember this. Things are supposed to multiply. And listen, we are honored that you give us the time. We are honored you give us the trust. And it is our job for it to produce a massive and significant return for you. And we're going to do that in conjunction with each other. That's the goal. Your goal is to take that pen and that piece of paper and to formulate a plan that you can go back and implement. And so you're supposed to take every piece of information that we give you and do what with it? Multiply it. It's an easy concept, okay? So you take it, you multiply it, you implement it, you do something, and it produces a larger result. I think we founded 5X something like 13, 14 years ago, right? How many of you have gone 5 times from your original thing, right? Many people started at a number and have taken their practice 5 or 10 times larger since they started that mission, right? It's a pretty amazing thing. And let me tell you something. If you are a doctor who says we're going to take the practice 5 times larger, that makes you very different. And so we want to understand that all of that was about appeal. All of that was about opportunity for those that work for you. The reason why you want to go 5 times isn't because it's easy. It's because it's what attracts people. It's exciting, the challenge. There's lots of challenge and failure and, experimenting with things. And so and I just want you to capture this. What does it mean to go 5 times? Just write these things down, right? It's that, number one, you're committed to growth. Whatever that means, right? You're committed to growth. You're trying to do things at a higher level, and ultimately you want to take care of more people. So just for those of you that are new, I want you to understand there's a lot of people who have these very solid foundations, and we're going to take and we're going to build on those things for what's going to occur in the future. Now, as I was thinking about this, and I'll tell you, and remember, Listen, I run a business just like you do, right? I mean, I'm in this every single day. So you will find different shades of the same problem. So some of you are in markets where, for instance, the job market is more stable, right? There is less movement. Others of you have different situations. So we're going to give you things that you can apply into your situation, and that's where your focus needs to be. So what we're going to do is let's talk about how we're going to start solving this, right? So laws are universal things, right? And so it turns out there is all kinds of information about the law of attraction, okay? Now, let me ask you a question. Do any of you know a person who you have heard talk about their inability to attract something into their life? Like, it's this, I can't what? What do they always say? I can't, there's no good guys. Like, all the good guys are gone. All the good women are gone. Like, you think about it, people say this stuff, right? You go, oh, I'm divorced. I mean, I'm 50. There's nobody my age available, right? I mean, you think about the things that come out of people's mouths. And by the way, we all do it, right? It's about something, right? And so let's kind of flush that out. So one of the things that happens when you use language like that, I want you to imagine that there is a way to build a wall around you, and then there's a way to have like magnetic force, right? And so how many of you have ever seen, have any of you had a patient who was freshly divorced, looking to, shall we say, make some improvements? I told you guys for years, I would find the divorced email, like I would go to the court and send mailers to everyone getting a divorce, because what they're going to do, right? And not everybody, listen, and if you pay attention, you'll see this, right? It's like, okay, let's go through it. What about when you go to sell your car? What should you probably do before you go to sell it? Maybe wax it, right? No, you don't just wash it, you get it detailed. Does that make sense? You get the dust off, right? Okay. What about a house? When you go to sell a house, what would you do? You fix all the obvious, if you're smart, you fix all the obvious broken things. So again, okay, how many of you have ever had a party at your house? The week before the party, did you notice something about your house? All the stuff you've been ignoring, right? Everything that you've been ignoring. So it's kind of interesting when you look at this idea of attracting talent. And today we're going to be talking about what you have to do to attract, right? What does that mean? So the action or the power of evoking interest, pleasure, or liking. And then look at what they start getting into: attractiveness, desirability, seduction, allure, right? I mean, there have been books written, that it's like, okay, do you guys remember when Axe body spray came out? If you were anywhere near a middle school or a high school, that stuff was just floating all over the place, because every one of those teenage boys was convinced that if I spray this crap all over me, girls it's going to be magnetic. And they must have sold a lot of that stuff, right? And your kid's like, I got to go to the grocery store. What do you need? More Axe body spray. What else? And what were they trying to do? What are they trying to do? Listen, I could play some of the funniest videos to you about the whole thing about attraction and how it works and first impressions. But here's what we got to do, right? So, I was thinking about this, I picked up on this little show, I don't know, on Netflix. Minding Your Manners. And it's this lady, and she's like, so she is sort of like a makeover show, but somebody must submit them or something. And then she comes in, and the first thing she does, and she's an Asian lady, just very good looking, fit, like sophisticated looking. And they sit down and have tea with her. And then she's like, no. Cup never leaves the plate, TG. And then she goes on and kind of trains them about like manners. And it's always so interesting. And the other day I was watching this one, and this lady's on there, and she's like, well, I had a baby. And then she was like, when is the last time you felt sexy? And she started crying. She said, I don't know. Maybe before you had the kid? Yes, and she's like, every story is about some emotional thing that made somebody not feel good. And then you watch the story of how to put it back together. Do you know what I'm saying? And so the story of put it back together is what? First, where do we always have to start? Got to start right here. If you feel not worthy of attraction, where does that start? Here. I mean, think about it. So we look at your office and we say, wait a minute. Is your office is it like bing, bing, bing? People are showing up at the door. I want to work here. I want to work here. Or if we can't get them to the door, today we have to fix the way you feel about your office. You got to clean up that office. You got to shine it up. You have to know that son of a bitch is attractive to somebody and you have to understand what you're dealing with, right? You're saying, well, wait a minute. What does the other office look like to make mine this way? Because you know what it is. Listen, there's not a person who's too young to understand what I'm talking about. And you yourself, right? You probably have times, right, where you felt certain way, maybe a little less, right? How many of you on the different day can feel very different about your attractiveness and who can have varying feels about their attractiveness on a daily basis? Like you might look in the mirror and go, oh, I'm having a bad hair day today, right? Okay, or, oh, God, I ate a lot last night. I mean, whatever it might be. But I want you to stop and think about this for a second. Do you think your office is sexy? Do you think your office is attractive to people who choose to work in these types of offices? Do you think, and do you know, and do you understand what they want? So do we know what they want? These are all the things we're going to look at. So I need you to get this straight. We're going to dial this son of a bitch up. You're going to work on it. You're going to know that it's right. That's what we got to do. Because listen, what happens sometimes is you get too comfortable, right? It's like, listen, what I want you to think about, right? We all understand this stuff. So what we're going to do is we have to apply this to your office. And the way you've been thinking about this is most likely problematic.
Want to master the #1 skill that drives cash flow and buys back your time? Recruiting, training, and retaining associate doctors and key providers is your biggest growth lever or your biggest liability if they walk out the door. Join us June 12th through 14th at the Cobb Galleria Center in Atlanta, Georgia for a 3-day course where you'll learn to master the art of building a high-performing team. Hear from Jay Geier, founder and CEO of the Practice Growth Institute and 15-time Townie Choice Award winner, Dr. Bill Dorfman, the celebrity dentist you've seen on Extreme Makeover, Eric Termuende, author of Rethink Work, and Paul Edwards of Cedar Solutions. Plus, top-performing clients running multi-million-dollar practices will share what's working right now. 2 seats are included, but space is limited. Call 678-456-5921 or visit jaygeierevents.com/June to secure your spot today. That's JAYGEIER events.com/June.
So there's also lots and lots of research, okay, about everything related to attraction. Now, so what do we want to attract? A certain type of person. We're going to break all that out. So what we've got to do is we've got to work and we're going to take this and we're going to define what it is we're trying to attract. Now, the next thing I want you to think about is this, a promoter. Okay, so we've got attraction. Okay, dirty car, clean car. See the difference? Well-dressed sweatpants, baggy sweatpants, whatever, right? So again, matching uniforms, right? Everybody wears whatever they want, right? So you understand the power of attraction, okay? Now remember, this is important. Different people think different things are sexy. So that means that, and remember, you're never going to be attractive to everyone. You just want to be attractive to what? The kind of person you want. See how that works? Very important you understand this. You can't be attracted to everyone. That's not what we're trying to do. So we got to put the pieces together. Now, it's interesting. So I want to talk about promoters. And what I want you to do is I want you to be thinking about the names of people who are promoters of your practice. And it's very important you understand this because when we talk about attraction, one of the things we want to make sure that you realize is this, is that not everybody in your office is a promoter. So we want to be careful about, is the person who's not a promoter in charge of hiring new people? Because think about that. We are going to have ourselves a problem. So for instance, that would be like saying, okay, hey, so a promoter is an advocate or a champion. Take a minute and write down the names of those people in your practice. It's funny because what we're going to see is sometimes they're not the people who are in charge of attracting talent. Think about that. So how many of you watch like the show The Office? All of you have seen that. And do you remember they had the HR guy? And the HR guy was always what, right? Michael made just fun of him. He was kind of disheveled. He was very sort of nerdy, right? And he just kind of, for more or less, just sort of kept crapping on him, right? He's like abusing him, right? And if you think about that traditionally, when you think about human resource positions, do you think about the person that has the greatest ability to attract? Not really. You think about, oh my gosh, HR is not going to like that we said that. Oh my gosh, HR. See, so what I want you to think about is we've got to find people in our organization who are natural promoters. And I guarantee you have them. I guarantee there are probably people in your office, like you want to write down, who's the name of the person who's brought you the most team members? Who's the name of the person who hands out the cards and brings the most patients in? Who's the person who's always got a damn smile on their face? Who's the person who's got that vivacious personality, right? Who are these people on your team? And I want you to understand something, right? And this is important. We all have unique ability, and that is not everyone's ability. But what we find is sometimes those people they don't own this, and we're not leveraging that. Okay, we want to make this easy. Remember? Okay, so is everyone understanding the power of attraction? And could you look at something and go, that's not attractive, that is attractive? Like if we just put pictures up, okay, attractive, non-attractive. And then again, somebody might go, woo, wow, man, look at that freaking man bun. I always wanted a man with a man bun. And somebody else says, I don't date people with a man bun, right? Like, I mean, so again, I could show you a picture and it'd be very different responses based on your beliefs, right? Okay, so let's make sure we understand this. A promoter. Who are these people? Naturally, people come to them. These are the natural alphas. They're the people when you say, we need a skit performed. Oh, I'll do that. We need you to get up here and sing and dance. Oh, I'm not going to do that, right? Okay. They want a cause. They may have another cause now. They may be the person in your office who is like, they volunteer at the dog shelter every weekend. Do you understand what I'm saying? They're in charge of greeting people at the church. You know what I mean? Come on. Who are your promoters? Write their names down. And I want you to understand something. This is not about casting aside everyone else, but it's the same thing. You know, in your patient base, you know what a bird dog is? That's how I learned the concept from a doctor I worked for. He hunted, so he had this thing about a bird dog, and he said, listen, when your patient comes in, you got to figure out who's a bird dog and who's not. And I was like, what bird dog? What are you talking about? Yeah, so I went hunting and I watched that. It's fascinating. And dog goes, gets a bird, brings it back. So if you have a patient who's a bird dog, that patient is a promoter. That patient is going to go out, find a friend and tell them, and then get them to show up at your office. See, so the same thing is true in your patient base. There are certain people who are these type of people. They have the ability, they have the influence, they have sometimes the charisma, whatever it is. So let's make sure you're getting this. Do you understand that in any group of humans, there are certain people who have this characteristic? So Are there certain people in every group who are just a little bit more, you might call them a marketeer, but I want you to think about this. They're comfortable in that space. So you have them in your patients, so you want to learn to identify them, but you have them in your employment as well. And we're going to talk about those people because we're going to need to get them in this game with us, okay? And we want to be thinking about if we're having a hard time, do we have the wrong person trying to do the attracting? Think about that. We're going to flush that out. Okay. Recruiter. Recruiter is a person whose job is to enlist or enroll people as employees. Doesn't that sound exciting? Sounds like an army recruiter, right? So what we've got to do is we've got to kind of move away from this model. And what I want you to understand about this concept is many of you, we have taught you how to be appealing to the patient. We have taught you how to create a patient experience where the patient leaves and tells a friend. Okay, we have taught you the principles of influence. So some of you understand there are actually principles, right? And that means, for instance, you look at the position of authority. A lot of what authority involves is what? How you look. You either dress like an authority or you don't. So you understand a lot of these things, but here's the shift that has to happen before we go to work. You have to realize that you're not applying these to this particular problem. You know them in other areas, but you have chosen not to apply them in this situation. Listen, attraction is incredibly important. And I'll explain to you why this has occurred, but we're going to take some of the skills that you have already possessed, already have applied somewhere else, and we're just going to apply them into this area. Wouldn't that be exciting if that worked? So there's a few things I teach people never to say. This would be one of them. I can't find anyone. You should write those words down and then say, don't ever say that again, period. So for instance, I don't have time. Why did we eliminate that from our vocabulary? No, because we said we're not supposed to say that, right? Under any circumstances, you don't say, I don't have time, because the minute you do, you basically you grant everyone permission to use that same excuse. So these words cannot. So what does this mean, by the way? So let's make some notes. When somebody says, I can't find anyone, what does that actually mean every single time? The same reason somebody who actually may be very attractive and very sexy says to themselves, I don't feel attractive. And what happens when no matter how you say it, right, then that's what you send off. Like, listen, the laws of attraction are very simple, right? And we know they start here. So the first thing we have to do is we have to stop saying the thing we don't want to happen. You can't say this. I have to be honest with you. I have watched over the last year, people just walk up and just spit that out of their mouth like it's nothing. And, you know, when we talk about finding new offices, right? People say, oh, I can't find an office. And I get on the computer. I was like, what about this one? Oh, this is the building I'm in. It's for sale. I was like, really? Okay. That happens all the time. So once you become convinced, so listen, we got to first clean up our language. I got to be honest with you. If the office isn't sexy, if there's nothing attractive about the office, the pay sucks, the people suck, you got some work to do. But if it's not, if it turns out, wait a minute, I've been working on culture for 3 years. I built a best-in-class facility. My team looks incredible. Our patient experience is off the damn charts. Then what are we looking for? And we're going to get very specific today because you can't find what you don't define. Write that down. You have to define what you want. So we need to take right out of the gate today, we need to simplify this and decide, what do we want to attract? Because again, if you want to attract a certain thing, the clearer and more specific you are, the better. So if somebody says, well, I just want to find a good person. That's a very wide, right? I mean, like, oh, geez. Oh, can you imagine that? is all I want is a good person. That's BS. Then you find out, but they can't be short or too tall or have too little hair or too much hair. See what I'm saying? The next thing you know, what have we found out? You don't have any idea what you want. So we don't say this. And if you say it, right, so we can reframe it. I haven't figured out how to find what I want. Because here's the truth. You'll never find, again, what you don't define. So we're going to define exactly what you're trying to find. Then we're going to figure out, how do you attract that particular creature? Does that make sense? Because the truth is, you've got to limit it. You got to limit it. You know, we do this in sales, right? And, you know, it's funny, when you sell something, how many buyers do you need? People are so funny, right? It's like, there's just one buyer you need. So if you're really smart, you could make exactly what that one buyer would want. And this is where we need to go with some of our thinking. So, attraction. I want you to forget about everything in your life except attraction. Think about that. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine a waiting list to work for you. Write that down. Because I'm going to tell you, it ain't going to happen unless you think about it. So here's a big concept we want to go through. What if we were so damn sexy, it was so much better to work here than other places, that you actually had people waiting to come to work for you? Now, see, this is what you need to understand about attraction. We've got to reframe this. Just like, you remember when some of you, the first time you hired me and you had that whopping 10, 15, 20 new patients, and now you have hundreds of new patients? What the hell happened during that period of time? You became attractive for the patient. That's what you did. You have done this. If you're getting 200 patients or 100 patients, your office is attractive to the patient. So you're telling me that there isn't some group of people who would like to work in the best office in town? And what you guys got to remember this is, if the only people that have ever been in your office are the people who work there, most likely what you have is a hellacious case of complacency. And you have to understand that. So, hey, I'm used to it. So let me tell you, how does that go in a marriage? Does everyone know how that works out in a marriage? Shall we? Complacency? What happens? In a marriage, if two people get married and one person becomes complacent about the other, what ends up happening? They get a divorce, somebody loses 50% of the crap, right? Seriously, this is what happens, right? And this happens in all kinds of relationships. So the question is, when we think about this, if you are attracting patients like this, why wouldn't you just apply the same principle to how you attract talent? And remember, this is what you got to understand. You're acting like every single prospect who could work for you has been through your office. I got news for you. Come on, write this down. They don't know until they've been in it. They got to experience it. So it's very interesting, and I want you to understand this. You guys don't go to other people's offices. Have you ever noticed that? Come on, when's the last time you went to someone else's office, right? In the last 3 years, I'd be shocked if any of you have been in over 5 offices, to be honest. It wasn't yours. The reason I go to weird dentists that are not my clients is so I'm reminded of how damn good what we do is. If I go to one of my clients, I just take it for granted, like, oh, every office is this way. No, they're not. They're terrible. The people are terrible. Their attitudes are terrible. The doctor is clueless. The space is dirty. There are cheap, disgusting signs up. Do you understand what I'm saying? Some of them are like bus stations, for God's sakes. But you got to go see that. So again, why wouldn't we apply the same principle of attraction to how we bring our people? Now, again, because you're hiring so many people? Is that the problem? We're going to break this down. You're not hiring as many people as you want. I bet you 3 people solves your problem. Some of you, it's 20. You're getting 200, 100 new patients a month. You don't think you can find the 3 people you need to go to work for you? You just have to apply the same principle. So imagine this. Imagine if I told you you could take some of the things you already know and have already succeeded in. We could twist them up a little bit, apply it into this situation. And in, let's say, 3, 4, or 5 months, whatever it is, you had a waiting list of people to work for you. Let me just digest that for a second. See, what you got to understand is the fact you've gotten sloppy and non-attentive to attraction, it's affecting your retention. You want your entire team to champion coming to work in your office, so they're not championing going to work somewhere else. Think about that. But imagine, we used to teach a concept called getting the chips back. You remember that? Some of you that have been around a long time. I used to say doctors would bring a team member to an event and they would say, oh my gosh, I just hired Susie and I don't know what I would do without her. And I always say, you gotta quit saying that, man. Quit saying that, right? Because it was like you moved all the chips over onto her table and it was like she was in control. I'm like, what are you gonna do? You gonna cry when Susie's gone next month when I see you? Like, no, don't do that, right? Make the relationship right. So I want you to think about this. So if you have people who want the jobs, how many of you, if there was a person standing right outside the door who wanted your job, how many of you might think a little differently about your job? So in your own little, I want you to think about this. So what if we could change the way we do this? We could attract enough people to fill the positions we wanted. We could potentially get to the place where we had a waiting list. You do that, that was the biggest thing you could possibly do for retention in your office, by the way. If we can get attraction right, it is going to have an automatic, whoppingly positive effect on retention in your office. So forget everything. Today is like time to clean out the closet, okay? Give up the sweatpants, give up the pair of shoes, right? And you just take them and throw them away and replace them with some better shoes. But you see what I'm saying? So everything that is not attractive in your office, what do we need to do with it? It's got to go. And you got to quit denying the truth. So if you lost a person last week and they said, well, the reason I moved is because they have a better break room, then boom, there's your information.
If today's episode hit home and you're ready to grow with the right guidance, our next coaching class kicks off July 31st in Atlanta, Georgia. To apply for coaching, call 470-410-3154 or go to mypgi.com/podcast, and one of our team members will reach out to help you see if it's the right fit.
Thanks so much for checking out this episode of the Private Practice Playbook. For clips of this episode, go ahead and check out the YouTube channel. If you enjoyed what you heard today, make sure to subscribe to the podcast at podcastfordoctors.com to unlock subscriber-only bonus episodes. Find our links below in the description.